Hello, bonjour, bienvenido, bienvenidas. You are most welcome. So my name is Trisha Wind, and I'm the program leader for the Knowledge and Innovation Exchange of the Global Partnership for Education, or KIX for short. This is a webinar that is about a call for proposals that opened on November the 2nd. The call invites proposals for applied research that address key challenges of supporting teacher professional development, agency, and well-being. This is one of two calls that are open at the same time. The other is about inclusive early learning and school readiness, and there will be a webinar just like this one tomorrow about that call. Moving to our agenda for today on slide 2, I will briefly introduce IDRC, KIX, and the applied research that we fund. My colleague Margarita Lopez, who is a senior program specialist with KIX, will present the theme and objectives for this call. Together, Margarita and I will review the types of grants that we will offer, who can apply, and what we're looking for in proposals. And then we will continue answering questions that we've received already through email about this call. And then there will be time to answer additional questions that you can submit live during this webinar. And we will address as much as we can during this hour. Before we begin, a couple of technical notes. The webinar is being recorded and will be posted online, but only presenters will be visible and named in the recording, not anybody who's listening online. At the top of the webcast player, you will see a number of navigation buttons. If you lose connectivity, please click on the refresh icon, which is 2 arrows that go in a circle. If you'd like to follow along with closed captioning, click on the captions link, which is a dialog bubble with a pencil in it. When it's time for the live question and answer period, click on the chat bubble to submit your question, and you can do that in English, French, or Spanish. If you need technical assistance, please click on the question mark icon, and our provider's help staff will do their best to resolve your issue. When you joined the webinar this morning, you chose the language that you would listen to, but if you want to switch that or change your video quality or another preference, please click on the settings icon, which looks like a little gear, and you can change things. Slide 3. So first to introduce IDRC. IDRC, or the International Development Research Centre, is an agency of the Canadian government. IDRC has been funding applied research across Asia, Africa, Latin America, and the Middle East for over 50 years on a range of topics, including agriculture, climate change, social and economic policy, governance, as well as education. To introduce KIX, KIX is a joint endeavor between IDRC and the Global Partnership for Education. It is the knowledge and innovation exchange of and for the over 80 countries that are partners of the Global Partnership for Education. And KIX's goal is tied to the goal of the GPE, that GPE partner countries have and use the evidence and innovation they need to accelerate access, learning outcomes, and gender equality through inclusive, equitable, and resilient education systems. KIX has 3 interconnected parts, which you see on the triangle in the diagram. At the top is the learning exchange. 4 regional hubs bring together people who work in today's education systems for peer learning and exchange. Their priorities inform the calls that IDRC puts out for applied research. The research is put to use in those contexts where it's implemented, and when it's ready, it can be shared back through the hubs for broader consideration. The hubs also identify needs for country support, through which tailored evidence and knowledge mobilization link to particular policy moments. Next slide. So on this slide, you can see the countries that are included in this call. They are the GPE partner countries across Africa, Latin America and the Caribbean, Central Europe, the Middle East and North Africa, Asia, and the Pacific. You can see the full list of countries in Annex A of the detailed call document. Now over to Margarita to explain the call theme, objectives, and questions.
Thank you, Trisha. So I will switch to English for this slide. So bonjour, bonjour tout le monde, bonjour, bon après-midi, bonne soirée pour certains et certaines.
Hello, everyone. Following the extension of the KIX program, we have already launched 2 calls for proposals in the domains of data use in education, and the equity and equality in education. These calls are looking to produce and mobilize evidence to help with contextualization and scaling of the impact of these innovations. All that in order to strengthen the capacity of education systems, and we want to support systems which are more equitable, inclusive, and resilient. Let's come back to today's call. There is a consensus about the role of teachers to create learning environments which are favorable so that children can learn in inclusive context. And the great question is, how can we support teachers in a relevant way? There were many initiatives, of course. A study, a recent study from the GPE and KIX summarizes the key priorities which have been identified by the education stakeholders in our KIX partner countries, partners of the GPE. The study concentrates on two sub-themes, main sub-themes, training and teacher training. The study showed some aspects which contribute to support teachers in their work. That's what we're looking to do. And from the very beginning of their career, it is essential, for example, to link theory to practice. This was really highlighted in many studies. Also, we should review what is going on with teacher development, and we also need to find new ways to help joint creation and implementation of learning environments. Nothing new, but these factors coming together will help a greater capacity of action, what we call in English agency, and the term was translated into French as capacity of action, and also to help the well-being of teachers with an impact on the teaching itself. In this call, we have identified a specific challenge, and in order to target the key factors for supporting teachers, this call aims to generate. First, it calls you to invite research proposals to generate and mobilize evidence to contextualize and scale the innovating approaches which will be promising or proven. All this in order to develop teachers and support their agency and their well-being. That is the great challenge that we have identified. Around this challenge, we have also identified two main themes for research, and I want to highlight those two lines with the main challenges, and we're going to talk about them in more detail. So what are we waiting for? We're waiting for research proposals on the main themes, helping to better the quality of education and the quality of teacher training, which is what we're talking about, teacher training. And it's very important to review the way it works with the realities of the classroom, on the field, specific work in certain contexts, the use of new technologies. We know about that. How can we engage with them? And the reforms that are actually happening. Once the reforms are made, they go to the side, and the practice in classrooms go to another side. So we have to review and think about all this. Secondly, we are waiting for proposals which refer to betterment of the training programs and the continued development programs. We know that many projects were about this subject. We need more information, more training, more learning on what's going on and the way to better these development programs and training programs. And so we're aiming to know what's going on with the coaches, the tutors, the mentors, the supervisors, and the rest of the staff, and what is going on also around additional research that is being implemented, for example, for community of practices, which are very common and which require more knowledge in order to better the results. So we're also waiting for this main theme. We're waiting for proposals aimed at the betterment of training programs, agreements, and that, of course, is to make sure that we will have the expected quality in terms of new teachers. So this is for the first line, the first main theme. The second main theme is to support agency and the well-being of teachers. And we would say that the call aims to, there's 2 points in this call: support the well-being and the agency and motivation of teachers, which means to really go deep into this. How does the teacher live their practice and their motivation? And we also want to highlight, I'm sure you've seen that in the call, what is happening with teachers who work in the rural areas, community areas, teachers who have contracts, short contracts, and all those who work in situations of emergency in regions where there are emergency situations which are very specific. And the researches which will go towards this subject will be very welcome. Second point about research would be strengthening the capacity of school leaders as people who really support the work of the teachers. So we're talking about head of school, your school leader, supervisors, district agents, and of course, always aiming, looking at the capacity they have to better the support for the teachers. So we really insist that we're working in an inclusion context. So we're taking a close look at equality and professional development for all the teachers, men and women, and of course, including those who work in remote areas or emergency situation areas. Let's move on to the next slide. And I think we're going to come back to English for those research questions.
I'm going back to English. So for these research questions that you have in the call, maybe what I want to emphasize is that we are talking about applied research. So this is very important because we want to have results, products that really help governments and other organizations to make changes, to use innovations. So this is not like a theoretical discussion that will take years and years, but applied research. You have the research questions, so I don't want to really go like farther to that. So the overall question that is in the call is how to scale the impact of innovative approaches that address teacher professional development, as well as their well-being and agency, including factors such as gender inequalities, social inclusion, and working in remote or crisis-affected areas. So you read that in the call, so I don't want to go for more details. You have 3 sub-questions that are also included in the call and that we ask you consider in your proposal, please. So these questions: what are promising or proven innovations that address teacher professional development, so the big topics, agency and well-being? How can these innovations be adapted, scaled, and implemented in effective, equitable, and sustainable ways? Remember that we are always looking for this possibility of adaptation. And what factors enable, incentivize, or impede the scaling of these innovations? So I don't want to say more about that. This is very concrete. So you have that in the call. So we can go to the next slide, please. That is about call objectives. Again, very, very quickly. So you can see in the slide the call objectives. And the only point that is very super important to insist here is these objectives should be adapted into the proposal specific objectives. So these three objectives, you can use them and or you should and really convert them using your topic, your selected topic. So just to insist on that, the objectives or the call are to generate evidence about how to scale the impact of promising or proven innovative approaches that will address the topics that we have been mentioning. Second objective, strengthen the capacities of relevant stakeholders to use that knowledge and innovation. This is very important. We want really to have people adopting, learning and adopting these new practices or innovations, and mobilize the evidence developed to improve policy and practice in education systems. That's also very important because the idea is to share with others all the learning that these research projects will bring to the team research and in general the countries. Next slide, please.
So I think now this comes back to me. Thank you so much, Margarita. We're going to move to what are we looking for in this call? The aspects that we will cover now are all in the detailed call for proposals that is available online. So we get a lot of questions about who is eligible to apply, so we'll deal with that first. Proposals are allowed to be submitted by individual organizations or by consortia who work together, up to 3 organizations together. These may include, for instance, research institutions, universities, think tanks, networks, associations, civil society organizations, nonprofits, or the private sector. Proposals that include or are from private sector partners should demonstrate how private sector resources, whether that be financial or technical know-how, will contribute to the project. The organizations must be registered or incorporated either nationally or internationally. They must have an independent legal status, or what's called a legal personality, be capable of contracting in their own right and name, receiving and administering funds, and have the authority to direct proposed project activities. Applicants should have a strong presence and track record of work in the education sectors of GPE partner countries. In terms of who is not eligible, individuals are not eligible. Neither are government ministries and agencies, nor are for-profit providers of core education services. If you go to the next slide, please. There are 3 different types of grants that can be awarded through this call, and each has a different grant value, a different duration, and there are specific eligibility criteria for some who can, in terms of the organizations that can submit a proposal either as an individual organization or as a lead of a consortium. So first we have single country projects. These can be up to 500,000 Canadian dollars, up to 2 years in duration, and proposals may be submitted by national organizations based in the country of focus. They are designed to be useful in that country. Second, we have multi-country projects. These can have a larger budget and up to 33 months duration. Proposals for multi-country projects can be submitted by organizations that are based in low and middle income countries in the regions covered by the call. These projects must include work in at least 3 GPE partner countries, and they are designed to be useful in those countries. Finally, then we have regional or global grants. These can have a budget of up to 2 million Canadian dollars, be 33 months in duration, and can be submitted by any organization that meets the general eligibility criteria. Regional or global grants also must include work in at least 3 GPE partner countries and be designed to be useful in those countries. And in addition, they use their work to inform the development of global or regional public goods that will be useful and make a difference for more countries, regionally or globally. Public goods are things like guidelines, toolkits, tools, platforms, regional standards. I was talking about specific eligibility of the lead organization or as individual organizations, but any of these grant types can be have proposals from consortia, and the members of the consortia past the lead can be from anywhere. They can be in the same country as the lead organization, from another low or middle income country, or from anywhere else. Because KIX was built for inter-country learning, our preference is for multi-country and regional or global grants. Single grants are welcome and would be considered when multi-country work is difficult, or when the proposal provides a compelling and unique opportunity for learning from a single country case. Let me say here too that KIX prioritizes funding to organizations that are based in low and middle income countries. If we go to the next slide, please, our expectation of projects. There are a number of things I'm going to cover in this slide. First of all, it's very important to us that the research that we fund is relevant and important for education systems. So proposals should demonstrate how they link to education policy priorities. They should have clear plans on how they will engage with key stakeholders, including but not limited to people in ministries of education. We are looking for evidence of that, which could be through a letter from relevant stakeholders indicating their approval or interest of the proposal. If that's not possible, proposals should demonstrate their clear alignment with official documents like education sector plans, partnership compacts, or other strategy documents, or talk about how they're working with existing government priorities. We will be looking for evidence that applicants are working in the country or countries and that they have relationships with key actors. Second, the funded projects will be expected to undertake research for development, which is designed to build evidence, strengthen capacity, and mobilize knowledge for policy and practice. They should be problem-focused and action-oriented. They will be expected to meet the quality standards expressed in IDRC's Research Quality Plus framework. There's a link to that in the call document. Research Quality Plus style research is methodologically robust, it's relevant and important, it's ethical, it incorporates local knowledge, it promotes gender equality, equity, and inclusion, and it is positioned for use. Third aspect that we're looking for is that proposals are expected to focus on existing, promising, or proven innovative approaches that have the potential to scale further and facilitate transformative change in GPE partner countries. So what do we mean by innovation? Innovation can be practices, policies, programs, technologies, approaches, methodologies, platforms, or other interventions. And it may be the combination of those that is the innovative aspect. We're looking for innovative approaches that address those policy challenges that Margarita already talked about. Applicants should focus on culturally relevant and contextually appropriate innovation that is feasible, cost-effective, and scalable. Proposals should present evidence that those approaches are effective. The innovations could have developed from within or outside the national context in which the project would take place. The guiding questions of the research that Margarita already talked about call for research about scaling impact. So issues of scaling should be built into the research questions and methodology of the proposal. Scaling research can include adapting innovation to contextual needs, developing or testing means or models of scaling, supporting capacity strengthening of stakeholders who will adapt, adopt, and continue to scale, or conducting cost analyses, assessing results, for instance. Proposals should take a critical approach to scaling, though, because bigger is not always better. When we say scaling impact, we mean the process of improving the reach, breadth, quality, equity, sustainability of the changes, benefits, or solutions that innovations can bring to education. So in the call document, you will find resources that elaborate on this critical approach to scaling. Fourth, the proposals should promote gender equality, equity, and inclusion. They are at the core of the issues of the research questions and objectives for this call. So if you think about where you should integrate attention to gender equality, equity, and inclusion, think about the expertise in the project team, the research questions, design and methodology of the proposed research, the theory of change and intended results, and in the knowledge mobilization strategy. Gender-blind proposals will not be considered at all. Please take a look at the call document, especially at the end. You will find additional guidance on integrating gender equality, equity, and inclusion in research for development. Finally, the projects funded out of this call will be invited to participate in knowledge synthesis, collective learning about scaling, and to extend their knowledge mobilization strategies within the hubs. They will be required to link their results to the KIX-wide results framework and track these in their monitoring, evaluation, and learning strategies. So proposals should anticipate being part of KIX and budget time and think about who would be involved in doing so among the proposed team. Back over to you, Margarita.
Thank you, Tricia. So let me go to the next slide on what are we looking for a proposal. So you can see the details of the evaluation criteria in the call document, of course. But just to summarize, I can say we are looking for strong proposals that directly addresses the challenges outlined in the call, speaks to the priorities and context of chosen GP partner countries, and present a convincing strategy to address all of this. So you have 30 points. You have that in the weight column. 30 points for that. We are also looking for proposals that present convincing design to achieve results, an appropriate methodology. This is so important to address research questions, clear strategies for adaptive management and mitigation of risks, knowledge mobilization, scaling impact, and stakeholder update. So this is the second line with 40 points. In the third line, we have monitoring, evaluation, and learning. So we expect that proposals include a theory of change and outlines processes to monitor progress, adapt, achieve results, and report. Finally, we are looking for applicant or project teams that demonstrate a strong track record that is suitable to the task proposed. Required capacity in education systems, GEA issues, knowledge mobilization, and applied research. And we expect also that proposals have a clear strategy for team coordination, and including their fair and equitable partnership, particularly in case of consortium. So we really look forward to that, to have these proposals and these points. Going to the next slide, please. So going again to the details, to the call document. So it's important to remind that you have that successful applicants will receive grant proposals from IDRC that include a number of important terms of conditions. This is in case you are successful. We have put links to applicable policies in the call document. The application form asks you to confirm that you agree to abide by the policies if you are selected. Please make sure that the organization's financial, administrative, or legal staff review those policies and the generic grant agreement that will be offered to successful applicants. Please also have them review how budgets should be put together, what expenses are allowed. All this is important to check even now before submitting the proposals. Next slide, please. In this slide, we have like a review of the overall review of the selection process, and it's important to remind that. So we have the general proposals. Proposals are due on January 15, starting next year. And what are the steps that we will follow? So we will have IDRC reviewing all submitted proposals to ensure they meet eligibility requirements and include all necessary application materials. After that, IDRC will review them based on the evaluation criteria, the criteria I mentioned before. After that, we will send a short list of proposals to the KIX Independent Assessment Panel of experts, who in turn will review eligible proposals using the evaluation criteria, the same criteria I presented before. IDRC will identify the recommended proposals by the panel up to the maximum budget for the funding envelope available for this call. The GPE Executive Committee, made up of IDRC and GPE management, will approve a cohort of projects. An important moment, the approval. After that, IDRC will notify applicants of the result. We are talking about April 9 next year. So that takes some months. And we will work with selected grantees to address comments and recommendations to refine their proposals, and will develop grant agreements with the organizations involved. We can say that projects begin after grant agreements are signed, only at that moment. And IDRC will then work with grantees to orient them further to KIX objectives and processes over a period of 3 months that we call the inception phase or inception period. During this time, program officers will work with grantees to align projects with the overall KIX theory of change and results framework. And we will provide support and guidance on important requirements such as scaling research again, gender and inclusion, knowledge mobilization, and mail reporting. Next slide, please.
Great.
Trish.
We're on consortia? Oh, sorry, I have lost my place.
So no, now we are going to the question and answers moment.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Sorry, thanks. So we are now turning to the questions that we have received so far by email. Please note that sometimes we get very specific questions about this or that organization or this or that context. What we're doing in this webinar is presenting perhaps a more generalized version of the question so that its answer can be useful to a broader set of potential applicants. So we got a number of questions around consortia, which is the next slide. As a reminder, proposals can be submitted either by individual organizations or by consortia of up to 3 that work together. And so we got some questions like, what are we looking for in a consortia? What are the requirements of the lead organization? What are the roles and responsibilities of co-applicant organizations? And can there be more partners in addition to the 3 working in the consortia? So I'll address all those now. So in terms of what we're looking for, consortia should cover the expertise required for a research for development project. When Margarita went over the organizational capacities, take a look at all of that and think about how would that be covered off by the different members working together in a consortia. When we're looking for the requirements of the lead, some of that has to do with the specific eligibility for single or multi-country grants. Remember that there are specific requirements of where those lead organizations are based for single and multi-country grants. In addition, across all lead organizations, we're looking for the ability to manage a large-scale grant from a financial and operational point of view. We're looking for presence in the field, thematic experience in the subject of the proposal, the ability to coordinate the members of the consortia, the ability to participate in KIX and the activities that I was talking about a little bit before. And the lead organizations need, of course, to be an independent, legally incorporated entity capable of contracting in its own right and name. The lead organization signs the grant agreement between IDRC and subcontracts or subgrants to the others. Only in exceptional circumstances would IDRC consider a separate grant agreement directly with a consortia partner beyond the lead. Co-applicants should demonstrate a robust and proven track record of work in the education sectors of GPE partner countries. Co-applicants would assume responsibility for specific parts of the work, and they report their progress back to the lead organization. The lead organization is the one that bears the ultimate responsibility for reporting on all financial and technical matters related to the work. In terms of the 4th question, you might want to include other partners in your plans. Depending on your focus, you may want to involve teachers' associations or unions, a relevant NGO, or people with specific research expertise. You should also, of course, always think about the stakeholders that are relevant to your project's objectives and how best to engage them. You will likely be somehow engaging with ministries or agencies of education, and they are likely going to be strategic partners, although not funded partners through these calls. Margarita, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Tricia. So we have many questions on eligibility. So let me go to the next slide, this slide, when we have 4 other questions. So can private sector organizations apply? Yes, they can apply, except for profit providers of core education services, like, for example, chain of private schools. Proposals that include private sector actors should demonstrate how private sector resources will contribute to the project. For example, if this is we are talking about financial or technical know-how, so that's important to precise. Second question, can you grant to UN agencies? Yes, definitely IDRC can grant to United Nations agencies. Can ministries of education be consortium partners? So here, that's important to say no, and not as a consortium partners. The majority of GP funding goes to ministries of education through a separate funding mechanism. KIX is a complementary mechanism within GP with funding targeting other actors. Applicants so are encouraged to involve national and local governments as strategic partners. Of course, this is important. So scaling education systems will most likely need connections with governments. We are aware of that. However, ministries cannot receive funding through KIX grants. So other kind of strategic partners. Last question. Can current KIX GP or education outload grantees apply? So yes, the question is very short and quick. Yes, they can apply. Tricia, next slide for you.
Yes. Continuing on eligibility questions. Can low or middle income country-based organizations who lead single or multi-country projects involve researchers who are based elsewhere? And the answer is yes. Are organizations based in an LMIC that is not a GPE partner country eligible to lead an application for a multi-country project? And the answer is yes again. Margarita.
Yes. So this is the last slide on eligibility. Can national offices of international organizations lead applications for single and multi-country grants? So single and multicultural grants are to be led by low middle-income countries-based organizations. KIX priorities funding to organizations in the global south. So many interested international organizations, so NGOs or others, have national or regional offices whose grant agreements are managed through a head of office in Europe, North America, or elsewhere. Those national or regional offices are not eligible to apply for single or multi-country grants. Next slide.
This is about the location of the research. Multi-country and regional or global projects must include grounded work in at least 3 countries. The question was, can these include both GPE partner countries and non-GPE partner countries? The answer is no. It needs to focus in GPE partner countries. Is there a preference for humanitarian or development settings? And the answer is no, we have no preference on that. How can an organization demonstrate that it has relationships with relevant education stakeholders in the target countries? As mentioned earlier, this could be through a letter indicating approval or interest from an appropriate authority in the ministry or important actors in the education system, or evidence of clear alignment with current official documents, like things like a partnership compact, an education sector plan, strategic plan documents, or existing strategies. We had a question about whether applicants have to submit their application online, and the answer is yes. There's a landing page on IDRC's website about this call. From there, you can find a link to the detailed call document that we've been referring to, an FAQ page, and at the bottom, you will find a button that says Apply Online, and that will take you to the online application form.
I can go with the next slide, maybe, type of research.
I think this is me on about scaling research.
Okay, go ahead, Tricia.
Okay. We have received some questions about scaling research. The research that we fund is intended to build on things that are already working and position research to build and mobilize knowledge about how to scale the impact of things that are already working. So the financing that we're offering is not to implement the innovative approach, it's about the research. So when the call mentions that we're not going to finance the implementation of the approaches, what we mean is that we cannot be paying for the full scale out costs of the innovation, but about the research to support scaling. So as an example, let's say an approach was developed by an NGO and a Ministry of Education is seeking to integrate it into the public system. Research could test how the approach needs to be contextualized to work in the public system, to test its efficacy with different delivery models at different scales, what it costs and how costs change at different scales, how the scaling can promote gender equality or take into account the needs of learners with disabilities, for instance. Second example might be that a teacher training institute has found a particular approach to distance education has been working, and they're looking for opportunities to expand or improve it. Or maybe a system was set up at a national level for implementation, but now the question is how to scale deep and down so that that approach can be used at district or school levels. There would be a lot of research questions about how to build out that system for different contexts, different users, and different purposes. That is all the kind of scaling research that we were interested in funding. Considering that operating costs in fragile or conflict-affected countries can be high, could the budgets for those types of proposals go higher than the ceiling amount? And the answer is no. The budget limit applies for all projects in all settings. We had a question about administrative costs. The indirect project costs consist of administrative costs that are not directly tied to the implementation of the research. These could include salaries and benefits of personnel which support and administer the project, office supplies, telecommunication, computer used for administration or accounting. IDRC will cover indirect costs up to 13% of all costs managed by the budget, managed by the recipient. And there was another question about, are the matched funds required in the budget? And yes, matched funds are mandatory. These can include in-kind contributions like staff salaries, equipment, infrastructure, or overhead costs. It can also involve cash from private grants or grants received from local, provincial, or national authorities in your country. Matched funds are included in the local contribution section of the budget. Margarita, I think you're on areas of focus.
Sorry, type of research. So this is the next slide.
Maybe could the presenters go to the following slide? There we go.
Detail relative mission. So sorry.
We're on areas of focus to our
areas of focus. Okay, so because I had a question here related to global public goods. So what are global public goods? Are we there? Not really there, but let me talk a little about that. So we have that to respond to that question, we can say that global public goods in education refers to tools, services, or initiatives that provide benefits to people worldwide. We are talking on education, of course. These goods are considered public because they are available to all, and one person's use does not diminish their availability. So we can bring an example, for example, toolkits or online platforms. They are all public goods. We received also questions related to the preferred methodology for the projects to be funded through this call. We have not a preferred methodology, but of course, the selected methodologies must be appropriate to answer the research questions and active project objectives in their contexts. Proposals must be explicit, and they should elaborate on the justification for methodological choices. Many of our projects tend to use mixed methods and involve a lot of collaboration with education stakeholders. Sometimes they talk about co-creation with those stakeholders, and it's so welcome. So that's important. And the other question was regarding proposals, if proposals can build on previously funded KIX applied research. Yes, sure. Proposal can build on previously funded KIX applied research. Another question, can a project focus on improving the quality and scope of teacher education and development, but not on research? No. The call is uniquely for applied research projects. We are talking only about research projects. So, Tricia, do you have the next one?
Margarita, what is the next slide that you're seeing?
But the next slide is proposal submission details. No, but you did it also. I think that we missed some slides here, so we can go to the areas of focus.
Yes.
I can go there if you want.
Yes.
Areas of focus. Okay. So the question is, does the call cover all levels of education from pre-primary to tertiary? So that's important to precise that KIX focuses on early childhood to secondary education. And teacher training is included. So it's why in this call you can include all what is related with teacher training. Second question, should proposals cover all sub-themes, or is it possible to select just one? Proposals can cover one or more sub-themes as relevant to the project. No problem with that. Do I continue?
Yes. You continue on
with the number of proposals. Next slide, please. Do we have this one? Number of proposals. Okay, perfect. So can an organization submit more than one proposal to this call for proposals? There is no limit to the number of proposals that an organization can submit, either as lead or member of a consortium. Second question, can an organization apply to the other KIX call for proposals on early childhood care and education, the call mentioned by Tricia at the beginning of this webinar? Yes, an organization can apply to both calls for proposals. And finally, if the proposed project is at the intersection of both calls, which call should it be submitted to? So it's at the discretion of the applicant to select the most appropriate call for proposals under which a project would fall. Please only submit your application under one call for proposals. Next slide, please. Trish is for you.
Great. So now from here, we are going to be addressing questions that you are submitting now live online. In order to submit a question, please click on the Participate button at the top of the webcast player, and you will be asked to enter your email address and enter your question, and then press send. We have some colleagues who are collecting the questions and sending them to us. We are now going to be taking a look at some of them that have already been coming in. So the first one is, do we adapt the research questions like we do the call objectives? Yes, please. So take a look at the overall research questions and project objectives and adapt them to your particular proposal and subject matter. Margarita, you're next.
I'm lost here. Margarita, is it permissible for an organization to be featured in multiple proposals, assuming different roles? For example, leading a consortium in one grant and providing technical support in another grant for different innovations. The answer is yes. It is acceptable for an institution to submit more than one proposal and be involved in different roles in each proposed project. I can continue with the...
Oh yeah, go ahead, yeah, sorry.
Okay, with the third one. Can organizations from different countries apply together? One from the Global South and one from the Global North, for example. And yes, definitely a consortium with entities from different regions may apply, although KIX will prioritize funding to organizations based in low and middle-income countries. For single country project, the leader must be based in the low and middle-income country, of course.
Question is, do we have to include all three aspects, teacher professional development, agency, and well-being, on either sub-theme we choose? And the answer is no. You don't have to focus on all the themes and sub-themes presented in the call document. You may choose one specific sub-theme and work with it, or multiple. Some projects do respond very strongly to multiple sub-themes. And whether you focus just on one or multiple themes, that will not impact the evaluation of the proposal.
Okay, we have another question related to money. What are the total funding envelopes for both the TPD and early child education calls? So total funding for both calls is 20 million 500,000 Canadian dollars.
Question is, what has been the overall trend in KIX funded research? Are innovations coming more from local or global organizations, from researchers or practitioners? So while KIX funded research involves innovations from both local and global organizations, we encourage organizations from the Global South to apply and will prioritize those applications. Historically, 70% of lead grantees for KIX projects have been in the Global South. So KIX projects involve institutions engaging both researchers and practitioners working together. So we don't have a lot of either or in answering this question. It's a lot of both and.
Let me go to this new question. What types of knowledge products do you expect out of these projects? So important. So each project is expected to develop a knowledge mobilization strategy and outline the outputs that they will develop as part of the strategy. The outputs need to be created with knowledge users in mind. This is a key point. Given this, they may vary. We have seen different outputs that include, but are not limited to, scaling strategies, evaluation reports, for example, baseline, midline, and endline studies, adaptation, contextualization strategies, training materials, toolkits, open courses, policy briefs, videos, podcasts, among others. So we have a large scope of products.
The question came whether you would consider multi-country grants for 2 countries, not 3, if there's a strong justification. The answer is no. Multi-country grants must target impact in 3 or more countries with direct relevance to the specific priorities in those countries. We're just going to pause a moment. Our colleagues are working in the background to receive your questions and then send them to us. So we're just going to pause for a moment until we get the next ones. Margarita, do you want to spend a second talking about how we translated teacher agency?
Sure. I was thinking on that. So yeah, we had some issues to translate sometimes some concepts in the call. So let me emphasize what we are meaning by agency in this call, because one word in English, but when you go to French or even Spanish, but more in French, is you need to find more explanation on that. So it's important to precise that the concept here refers to the capacity, we have the autonomy of individuals, groups, to act and become agents in a given environment. In this specific case, we are talking about teachers, of course. So that includes the possibility to confirm or create new practices, relationships in their work, to have the capacity and resources to fulfill their potential, their professional growth. So that's important, and this is in the 3 languages. This is the same idea when we are talking about agency. This capacité d'agir. We have also involved autonomy, the idea of autonomy, and to really take decisions to improve and have a professional growth. Are we receiving a new question here? Sorry, yes. Let me go there. As for the strong presence and track record of work in the education sector of GPE partner countries, is it okay if either party of the consortium has it or both? Okay. If one of the consortium members have proven experience working with GPE, it should be fine. However, the experience has to be relevant to the call.
And I think we mean their proven experience working in GPE partner countries.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Again, another small pause while we wait for another question to come in. The question is, what are admissible or non-admissible expenses? For a list of eligible expenses, you can refer to IDRC's guidelines for accepted project expenditures. And for general information, please refer to the general IDRC funding guidelines, and you can find links to both of those in the detailed call document. There's actually quite a lot of guidance available online about all these things. So again, if you look on our website, idrc.ca, under funding, you will find these two calls for proposals with links to the detailed call document. And from there, toward the end, you can find all kinds of links to these more detailed guidance documents.
Oh, new question. Can this call for proposals fund projects or programs for building faculty research capacity? Okay, KIX seeks to strengthen basic education systems and not to strengthen research capacity for faculties. However, if a proposal focusing on the identified challenge is successful, some budget can be allocated towards strengthening research capacity for project teams. That means that the call is very clear. We have not received more questions.
No, I think here we go. Will there be any budget for implementation? For example, if the research is focused on scaling a specific teacher training model, will there be a budget for delivering teacher training as part of this? So the research expenses can cover costs associated with piloting or adaptation studies, as part of which you can deliver and test the effectiveness of teacher training modules that you developed. That's an example. However, we're not going to fund any projects that focus only on implementation. These are about research projects.
One new question. Our organization's research director is the authorized signatory for grants and contracts, not the principal investigator. Is this accepted for the applicant? Yes, no problem. But the proposal budget summary page, the page, has to be signed by the PI and the research director, both of them.
All right, I'm going to see if there's maybe one more question that we can squeeze in before the end of this session. Oh, maybe that's it. Okay. Well, if we can go now to the next slide, please. Oh, sorry, I do see one more coming in. All right. In terms of the eligibility of the lead organization, can an institute or center associated with an intergovernmental network or secretariat be eligible, or are they considered government as well? If it's an intergovernmental network, so we cannot fund governments, we cannot fund ministries of education. So you'd have to take a look at that criteria and make sure that the funding is not going to the ministries of education. Are institutions such as universities considered for-profit institutions? And generally, no, we are not considering private universities as considered for-profit, but it depends on their statutes. Okay, we are going to have to stop now and go back to the last slide here. We've reached basically the end of the hour. As I mentioned, we will update the frequently asked questions document, or the FAQ document, following this webinar and in the following weeks. If you submitted a question today that is broadly relevant for others, then we will add it to the FAQ document. And we do ask that you look at that FAQ document. It could be that your question is already answered. Thank you very much for your interest in KIX and in this call for proposals. We're really looking forward to reading your submissions. Reminder of the key dates in front of us. By January 15, 2024, that is the deadline for submitting proposals. And final selections will be sent out on April 9th. Thank you for your attention and very much looking forward to hearing from you. Thanks so much.